What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. Caden Cross here, and today I've got a different kind of upload for you. I've talked in the previous video about my everyday essentials, and one of the things I've covered in it was the supplements I take on a daily basis, and I did miss one of them. It's not a supplement, it's a nutritional item, and that is Manuka honey. So I'll give you a quick brief today on Manuka honey, why I take it, and what makes it different or unique compared to other honeys. So a quick background about Manuka honey. Manuka honey comes from the Manuka flower, which is unique to New Zealand. It is the only place in the world where that flower grows, and the honey comes from there. What makes Manuka honey coveted compared to a lot of other honeys, or again in line with some of the other honeys out there, like ones that come from places like Yemen, for example, is that it has medicinal properties. And by medicinal properties, it means there are antibacterial, antibiotics, almost properties of the honey that help with things like colds, help strengthen the immune system, as well as help with wound healing. Again, based on a lot of the research I've done, there is no actual peer-reviewed papers that substantiate these claims. However, there is quite a bit of anecdotal evidence that this does help with all the aforementioned claims. I personally take Manuka honey for the health benefits of it that I mentioned. For example, when I started taking it, I started realizing that I get sick less often. I do feel healthier, more energized on it, because a lot of the Manuka honey tends to be unpasteurized honey and it's in raw form. They do cream it, however, so you do get a bit of trace minerals and vitamins in it, as well as a lot of other phytochemicals that are pretty beneficial for you compared to your average grocery store honey, which a lot of it actually has very little honey in it and is mixed or is mostly corn syrup. And even if it is honey, it tends to be pasteurized, which kills a lot of the phytochemicals and micronutrients in the honey that are beneficial to you, and you end up just getting sugar. So what do you need to look for in Manuka honey? So first of all, when you buy Manuka honey, you want to make sure that there is two grading systems on the container, one being a UMF and the other is MGO. And here it is for reference, if I can get the camera to zoom or focus. There we go. So UMF is just a grading system, and I'm gonna read it out here. It means unique Manuka factor, and it basically refers to three components that are unique to the honey, which are MGO, GHA, and leptospirin. And basically all these three items, they are the items or factors that give the medicinal properties of Manuka. And you want a Manuka honey that is rated 10 plus. So for this one I have here, it's rated 13 plus UMF. So that's pretty up there, meaning that it has enough of a content of these three factors to be deemed to have medicinal properties. Now, there's also another rating on the container, which is MGO. And I'm gonna put on the screen what MGO stands for, because pronouncing it, I'll just end up butchering it, but I'll throw it on the screen right here. And pretty much what you want is, again, a high factor rating. So in this case, for the MGO, it's 400 plus. And what MGO is, it's the antibacterial factor within Manuka honey. So this is where the claims or the anecdotal evidence speaks to having healing, it speeds healing, having antibacterial properties. It helps with strengthening the immune system and whatnot. So these really are the two key things you want to look for when buying Manuka honey. Most Manuka honey will come also from non-GMO projects. So a lot of them will have a non-GMO project verified sticker or logo on the back, if I can get the camera to focus. And you just want to make sure that what this logo or verification means is that it came from a wild source, because most of Manuka flowers are wild, and you want to make sure you're getting it from a wild source. The other bit of it that you want to make sure of is that it comes from a monofloral source, meaning that it comes from one source of flowers, which is Manuka, because you can get blended Manuka honeys, which means that it contains honey from Manuka flowers as well as honey from other flowers. And the reason this is done is to lower the cost of the Manuka honey, because this is quite pricey. So for example, this 250 milligrams of Manuka honey with a 13 plus UMF and MgO 400, this is $50. So it is pretty expensive. So what happens is once you mix the honey with the Manuka honey with honey from other flowers, you can still sell it at a lower price to make it more accessible. The only thing is that you will not get the same medicinal properties as with pure monofloral Manuka honey. Another thing to take into consideration is that Manuka honey is graded also based on its color. For this one, it's a grade number 1 amber. So amber is basically the darkest color this comes in. And generally speaking, from my own experience, again, not peer-reviewed papers or substantiated evidence out there, but my own personal experience is that the darker the honey, the more almost medicinal tasting it tends to be. I found with Manuka honey, and this is how I judge how good a batch is, at least for my own purposes and use. So, what does it taste like? It will not taste any different from any creamed honey you've had before. I find though that it tends to be less sweet compared to other honeys like a clover flower honey. So it's not overly sweet, and as you go up in the grades, you will find that it does get a bit darker in color, and it does taste a bit medicinal. It almost has like a cough syrup / cough medicine taste to it. Sometimes also ends up a bit on the licorice side of things, I find, taste-wise. And all of this has to do with medicinal properties of it. And believe it or not, I mean, these ratings can go up for the UMF in excess of 20 plus, and for the MgO in excess of 1200. And even then, there are Manuka honeys out there that are in excess of those numbers I just gave, that are used for medicinal purposes, and they are restricted, meaning that you need a prescription to use, or you need to be a medical professional to administer. And those high level UMF Manuka honeys, they're used mainly for wound healing. So the honey's taken, is applied to a wound, and it helps it heal quicker. These are not available for consumer access to the best of my knowledge. However, they are out there. And that just goes to show, even though not necessarily scientifically proven, that it works the way it's claimed to be on an anecdotal and individual level. Within the medical profession, it is highly regarded, and it is used for burn victim healing as well as wound healing. But like I said, those high-level UMF Manuka honeys are most likely too much for consumer consumption anyway, and that's why they're used for medical purposes. So the real question then that's left is this worth buying? And what I'll say is that it comes down to what your nutritional health objectives are, as well as your budget. I personally think it's worth the investment, even though it's fairly expensive. whatever money you spend on this is going towards your health. I do find again that I get less sick on it. I do believe in the health benefits of it that are claimed, and I'd rather have this as a form of an antibiotic, antibacterial, or immune system support versus taking some sort of chemical pill, which I do still to a certain extent take vitamins and whatnot, but the closer to nature you are, the better it is for your body. So I do highly recommend getting it. I don't think it's a waste of money, and the only thing you gotta be cognizant of is how quickly you can go through these. So my recommendation would be if you can get if you can get larger containers, it is better bang for your buck. I can't get them around where I live. I can only get these little ones. So I find that it gets cheaper the larger the quantity is, or if you can buy it wholesale, which you can in some places, you should consider doing that. So in conclusion, I recommend the Manuka honey. In terms of brands, just be cognizant of what you're getting. This is the last note I would say. Not all Manuka honey is made equally. There's a lot of scams out there. I usually get Comvita, which seems to be the top brand out there. However, I couldn't get it as of late, so I got this Manuka Health New Zealand, which seems to be fairly up there also. But if you want a recommendation, maybe check Comvita. It's a good place to start. They have different grades and tiers of Manuka honey, so it will suit your budget and you don't have to splurge from the get-go. But definitely recommend this honey. I can't say enough good things about it. So if you're interested and you are on the fence about getting it or splurging on it, go ahead and do that. You won't regret it. It's definitely a good add to your daily routine from a nutritional perspective and health perspective. All right, so that's it for today's upload. Hope you enjoyed it and found it informational or educational. If you did, consider liking and subscribing, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers.